Gistermiddag in Aleppo. Hulpverleners racen naar de wijk Al-Soukari, die net gebombardeerd is. Het blijkt dat hier geen gewone bommen zijn gegooid, maar dat ze geladen waren met chloorgas. Er vallen 80 gewonden en 2 doden. Om Aleppo wordt al 4 jaar lang fel gevochten. Het is de tweede stad van Syrië en strategisch uiterst belangrijk. Een staakt het vuren in februari mislukte. En dus vechten alle partijen door. Want wie Aleppo wint, wint de oorlog.
أدى القصف إلى دمار هائل مثل ما احنا شايفين وكان فيه القصف كان فيه كلور صار عندنا حالات اختناق كثيرة ما بنلحق نشيل الأطفال يعني هون منطقة مأهولة بالسكان مدنيين ما في عندنا مقرات ولا في عندنا أي هون مقر عسكري.
We call for the cessation of indiscriminate attacks on civilian inhabited areas. And particularly, as has been implied by your question, the bombardments on civilian inhabited areas. And that message is particularly relayed to those who control the air, and that pertains particularly to the pro-government forces, while not forgetting that not so far away we also have shelling by anti-government armed groups and terrorist groups.
Alle partijen overtreden het oorlogsrecht en het geweld in Aleppo neemt alleen maar toe. Intussen wordt er onder leiding van Amerika en Rusland onderhandeld over een begin van een vredesproces dat maar niet wil vlotten.
The responsibility for the continuation of the war in Syria is a shared responsibility by many actors. It's not sufficient just to point one actor. That is the reason why there are negotiations. That's the reason why Mr. Lavrov and Mr. Kerry are talking. There are no innocents in the war in Syria. And the only solution is precisely the involvement, the responsibility of all the actors that continue this war.
Eerder vanavond sprak ik met Ole Solvang. Hij is onderzoeker bij Human Rights Watch in Parijs en heeft meer details over de aanval in Aleppo.
Well, we're still investigating these attacks. It is extremely difficult, as you know, because there's no access to these sites. It's also extremely difficult to determine exactly what kind of substances were used in attacks like this. But what we've heard from our sources on the ground is that helicopters dropped barrel bombs yesterday. People near the impact site said that there were no explosions, but very soon after these barrel bombs landed, they started smelling a very strong smell. Some said that it smelled like chlorine. They started having trouble breathing. Their eyes were irritated. We know that dozens of people eventually went to the hospital to seek medical treatment, and there are reports that 2 people died because of the complications, because of the problems that they were having following these attacks. In addition, what we do know, of course, is that Syrian government forces have in the past used toxic substances like chlorine in barrel bombs like this in other places. So for now, although we're not ready to draw a conclusion, all indications point towards the Syrian government again using a toxic substance to attack civilian areas in opposition-controlled territory.
Yeah, they are also, Assad's army is also the only party who has helicopters.
That's correct. I guess the Russians at this point are also flying helicopters, sure. But we've only seen the Syrian government forces dropping these kinds of barrel bombs.
Yeah, you said again, there was a big chemical attack in 2013, allegedly by the Syrian government. After that, Syria supposedly removed all chemical weapons. Apparently not.
Well, it is true. In August 2013, there was a big chemical weapons attack that killed hundreds of people, which really shocked the world because this was it was the deadliest chemical weapons attack since the 1980s when Saddam Hussein used chemical weapons. And I think much of the world thought they had, that this was a problem of the past. After this, this UN Security Council put pressure on Syria to give up its chemical weapons arsenal, to join the Chemical Weapons Convention, which they did. And as far as we know, the UN helped Syria get rid of all its chemical weapons. The problem is that a substance like chlorine, for example, because it has many civilian purposes as well. We use it to clean, we use it to purify water. It's not per se a banned substance, but using a toxic substance like chlorine as a weapon is still very much banned under the Chemical Weapons Treaty. So if it is confirmed that this attack was with chlorine, it is in violation of international law. Syria would be in violation of the Chemical Weapons Treaty, and they are in violation of several resolutions of the United Nations Security Council.
And what does that mean? I mean, there's still peace talks going on in Geneva. Do you expect these bombings to have any effect on that?
Well, it's very hard to say. I mean, you know, definitely it complicates things greatly. What we do expect to see now is some sort of strong reaction from the United Nations Security Council. Back in 2013, after the major chemical weapons attack, the Security Council threatened to take measures under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, which is the strongest measures that the UN can take if there were any future use of chemicals as weapons. Now, we actually do know that that has happened. Just a week ago, a joint investigative mechanism appointed by the UN reported to the Security Council that the Syrian government had used chemicals such as chlorine in at least a couple of instances in Idlib. There will be a final report on this issue presented to the United Nations Security Council tomorrow, we think, and we're then expecting the Security Council to take strong measures.
More developments tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time. Ola Solvang of Human Rights Watch in Paris. Thanks.